I watched my best friend destroy himself being the good guy. He gave everything, forgave everyone, sacrificed his peace for people who didn't even remember his name. 3 years later, I saw him again. He wasn't broken anymore. He was ruthless, and he told me something I'll never forget. The world didn't change. I did. I stopped being easy to break. That sentence stuck with me, because deep down, I realized it wasn't just his story. It was mine, and it's yours too. Right now, there are two versions of you. Version 1 apologizes, tolerates, keeps hoping people will change. You bend over backwards to be understood, respected, loved. But the more you give, the less they see your value. Then there's version 2, the silent one, the certain one, the one who doesn't argue, doesn't beg, doesn't chase. They just remove without noise, without guilt. You've been living as version 1 for too long, and it's killing you. It's made you soft where you should be sharp, kind where you should be calculated. In 1513, Niccolò Machiavelli wrote something in The Prince that still cuts through every illusion. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. He wasn't talking about cruelty. He was talking about control, about knowing when to stop being the person who breaks for others. If you're ready to walk this path to the end, stay with me. Because today, I'm going to show you how to awaken version 2, the ruthless version of you, the one people sense but can never manipulate. Here's the brutal mechanism behind your breaking point. People instinctively read generosity as inferiority. They assume if you give too easily, it's because you need approval. And the moment they sense that need, they own you. This isn't cynicism, it's transaction psychology. Every relationship operates on perceived value exchange. When your kindness has no cost attached, it registers as worthless.
Niccolò Machiavelli understood this in 1513 when he wrote The Prince, not as self-help, as survival doctrine for those navigating power. He said it clearly: men are quicker to offend one who is loved than one who is feared. Translation: the ungrateful exploit your goodness precisely because they don't fear losing it. They know you'll stay. They know you'll forgive. They know you'll rationalize their cruelty with excuses like, they're just going through something. That's not compassion. That's self-delusion. Here's what they won't tell you in therapy. People don't remember your kindness. They remember pain. They don't respect explanations. They respect consequences. Every time you tolerated disrespect, you trained them to see you as disposable. Every time you explained your worth, you confirmed you had to prove it. The world doesn't destroy you because you're kind. It destroys you because you confused being kind with being harmless. And that confusion? It's the exact entry point the ungrateful use to dismantle you. But there's a counter mechanism most people never learn to activate. Number 2, turn pain into power. Pain is the only teacher that never lies to you. It doesn't flatter your ego. It doesn't care about your excuses. It strips you down to what's real. And here's what most people refuse to see. The difference between the broken and the powerful isn't the amount of pain they felt. It's what they did with it. Weak minds drown in suffering because they keep searching for fairness. They still think the world owes them healing. But strategic minds know the truth. Pain is currency. You either spend it building yourself or waste it crying about what happened. The ones who rise from destruction aren't lucky. They're ruthless. They look at betrayal and heartbreak and ask one question: what is this teaching me about control? Machiavelli understood this in 1513, when he wrote The Prince.
He said it plainly: never waste the opportunity offered by a good crisis. Every moment of suffering is a chance to evolve into someone untouchable. Pain isn't punishment, it's information. It shows you exactly where your weakness lives. Every betrayal reveals who you trusted too easily. Every rejection exposes where you placed your worth. When you start viewing pain through that lens, it stops being a wound. It becomes a weapon. But here's what no one tells you about this kind of transformation. When you stop fearing pain, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. When others try to manipulate you through guilt or rejection, it no longer works, because you've already faced worse and survived. Machiavelli believed that a wise man learns more from misfortune than from comfort. That's because pain activates awareness. It forces evolution. It silences illusion. You start seeing people for who they are, not who you wished they'd be. You start choosing logic over emotion. The more you endure, the less reactive you become. You move like someone who's already been through the fire. That energy commands respect because it's dangerous. People feel it when you walk into a room. The aura of someone who has turned every wound into wisdom. You no longer carry scars with shame. You wear them like armor. Your silence becomes heavy, your gaze steady. That's when you know you've crossed over, from being shaped by pain to shaping others through it. The next time life hurts you, don't curse it, study it. Ask yourself, what advantage is hidden here? Because every moment of agony carries a seed of dominance if you're ruthless enough to use it. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My pain builds power. Number 3, kill the need to be understood. The hunger to be understood is the trap that keeps powerful minds chained to mediocrity. You keep explaining yourself, hoping people will see your intentions, your goodness, your truth. But here's the harsh reality. Most don't care to understand you. They only care to categorize you. They don't listen to comprehend. They listen to find weakness. The more you explain, the more information you give them to use against you. When people know your motives, they know how to manipulate you. That's why the ruthless stay silent. They let others guess, project, assume. And in that confusion, they remain untouchable. Machiavelli once said, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. And to command, you must never over-explain." Because explaining is a defensive act. It reveals that you still seek validation. Power doesn't justify itself. It simply exists. The most intimidating people are the ones who don't explain why they act, feel, or disappear. Their silence creates tension. That tension creates respect. The weak beg to be seen. The strong choose to be misunderstood. When you stop defending yourself, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is fear's twin. People can't control what they can't read. That's why rulers throughout history mastered ambiguity. They spoke less than they knew, acted more than they explained. Every time you rush to justify yourself, you hand them a weapon. You're teaching them exactly how to disarm you. The dangerous thing about transparency? It invites dissection. And dissection always kills the magic of power. Machiavelli understood this in 1513 when he wrote The Prince.
The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. The wise stop justifying themselves early. The fool keeps talking until he's exposed. You don't owe anyone clarity about your choices. Not your distance, not your silence, not your standards, not your change. Let them misunderstand. Let them call you cold, arrogant, detached. Every false label they give you becomes armor. The moment you stop correcting them, you regain control. Because control lives in restraint. Silence isn't weakness. It's weaponized composure. It makes others nervous because they can't predict you, and uncertainty makes them cautious. That's psychological dominance. Think of the most powerful people you've ever encountered. They weren't loud. Their presence demanded attention, not because they shouted, but because they didn't need to. Drop this in the comments. My silence speaks power. Now here's where most people break. They confuse detachment with coldness. Detachment isn't emotional death, it's control over who gets access to your energy. Begging for attention, love, or closure. That's how the powerful become slaves. The more you chase what's walking away. Most people confuse loyalty with attachment. They think they're the same. They're opposites. Loyalty is choosing someone from strength. Attachment is needing them from weakness. And the world has trained you to believe that chasing proves you care, that fighting for people shows your worth. But here's the reality no one tells you. The one who chases always loses power. Every time you beg for attention, affection, or time, you broadcast a signal: weakness. And weakness doesn't inspire respect. It invites exploitation. Machiavelli wrote this in The Prince back in 1513. He who is not master of himself cannot be master of others. When your emotions rule you, you become easy to control. The ruthless don't detach because they lack emotion. They detach because they refuse to be owned by it. When someone disrespects them, they don't argue. They don't explain. They vanish. Silence becomes their sword. Absence becomes their message. And in a world built on emotional manipulation, detachment is rebellion. It terrifies manipulators because it kills their power source, your reaction. The moment you stop reacting, you become unreadable. And when you're unreadable, you become feared. The secret weapon of the powerful isn't rage, it's indifference. Indifference burns colder than hate and lasts longer than love. When people can no longer predict how you'll respond, they lose control over your mind. That's when your energy begins to shift. True strength is when you can love someone deeply, yet walk away the moment they threaten your self-respect. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care correctly. About yourself first. Because when you stop begging, you stop bleeding. And when you stop bleeding, no one can feed on you again. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose peace over people. Number 5. Boundaries are your armor. Boundaries are the invisible walls that separate power from chaos. Without them, your life becomes an open field where anyone can enter, take what they want, and leave you empty. You've been taught that saying no is selfish, that setting limits makes you unkind. But the truth? The absence of boundaries is self-betrayal. Every time you tolerate disrespect, every time you forgive without consequence, you surrender pieces of yourself. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince who is not wise himself cannot be well advised." Translation? If you cannot guard yourself, no one else will. The world doesn't honor openness. It exploits it. The ones who smile at your kindness today will use your forgiveness tomorrow. That's the nature of unchecked human desire. People always test the limits you refuse to enforce. Boundaries are not walls to keep others out. They are gates that protect what's sacred inside you. They are not cruelty. They are clarity. And clarity terrifies manipulators because it removes their leverage. In dark psychology, boundaries are weapons of control. The person who enforces them dictates the terms of every relationship. When you calmly say no without guilt, you communicate dominance. When you cut off access after betrayal,
you announce that your worth is non-negotiable.
The powerful don't argue about respect. They demonstrate it through distance. Forgiveness without consequences is submission. Mercy without structure invites chaos. The moment you stop rewarding bad behavior with your presence, you begin to command silence from those who once disrespected you. They'll stand outside your boundaries with honor. Those who truly value you will never demand you lower your armor. Now, drop this in the comments. My boundaries protect me. Number 6, master the art of silence. Silence is the weapon the powerful use when words lose their value. Most people fear it because silence exposes their lack of control. They fill the air with noise to prove confidence, to seek validation through talking, to mask the emptiness they're terrified of facing. But here's the truth they don't understand. Every unnecessary word you speak becomes ammunition for someone else's manipulation. The wise know that in a world addicted to talking, silence is dominance. Machiavelli once wrote, "Never reveal all your thoughts, for it makes you predictable and vulnerable." The moment people can read your emotions, they can calculate your reactions, and the one who can predict you can control you. Silence makes you unreadable. It builds an atmosphere of mystery that forces others to second-guess themselves. The quiet man in the room always holds more power than the one shouting for attention. In dark psychology, silence isn't emptiness. It's strategy. It shifts the balance of control without confrontation. When you say nothing, you let others reveal everything. They expose their insecurities, their motives, their weaknesses, while trying to understand you. The ruthless use this. They listen more than they speak, observe more than they explain, act more than they promise, and every pause they hold increases their authority. Power doesn't announce itself. It lingers in the space between words.
Silence creates psychological tension. It makes others project their fears onto you. They start wondering what you're thinking, what you might do next. That uncertainty, that's invisible control. The loudest person rarely holds power. They crave it, but the silent one already possesses it. When someone insults you, stay silent. Watch them unravel in their own guilt. When someone provokes you, give no reaction. Let their desperation expose them. Your silence will echo louder than any argument. Machiavelli understood this. The wise man acts with quiet. The fool defends himself with words. The moment you stop explaining, you shift from emotional to strategic. You stop playing defense. You start commanding the game. Power doesn't beg to be understood. It demands to be felt. Silence makes you unpredictable. Unpredictability breeds respect. Drop this in the comments. My silence controls chaos. Now, shift number 7. Never show full loyalty. Loyalty is a weapon only when it's selective. The moment you give it blindly, it becomes your cage. Machiavelli warned that men are ungrateful, fickle, deceitful. To expect pure loyalty is to invite betrayal. When you show absolute loyalty to anyone, a friend, a mentor, a leader, you surrender your independence. They start viewing your devotion as weakness, not virtue. The loyal are predictable, and predictability is death in the game of power. True Machiavellian loyalty is conditional. It serves your growth, your protection, your rise. Once it stops serving those, loyalty, it must be reevaluated. Most people stay loyal out of fear of being alone, fear of being called disloyal, fear of losing approval from people who would abandon them in a heartbeat. This is the loyalty of the powerless. And these same people end up discarded, betrayed,
replaced the moment they stop being useful. Here's what the powerful understand. They never attach to the person.
They attach to the opportunity. Social exchange theory confirms this. Relationships are transactions. When the cost outweighs the benefit, people walk away. The powerful know alliances shift like tides. They don't resist it, they ride it. Your loyalty should be a mask, not your identity. Wear it when it benefits you. Remove it when it becomes a liability. This isn't cruelty, it's realism. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago. In The Prince, written in 1513, he made it clear. A wise man ought never to depend wholly on one thing or one person. Dependence kills autonomy, and autonomy is the root of dominance. Never reveal where your true allegiance lies. Let people believe you're on their side, but remain free internally. The illusion of loyalty is far more powerful than loyalty itself. It keeps others comfortable, while keeping you untouchable. When you're too loyal, people stop respecting you. They test your boundaries, they exploit your devotion, and they stop fearing your withdrawal. Fear maintains order. When people know you can walk away without hesitation, they treat your loyalty as a privilege, not a guarantee. Give loyalty like a sword, sharp, deliberate, and only when it cuts in your favor. Never give it like a gift. Gifts are forgotten. Weapons are remembered. This mindset makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is the ultimate psychological advantage. But here's the line you must see clearly. This doesn't mean severing all emotional connection. Emotional detachment without balance can lead to avoidant attachment patterns, isolation, even long-term psychological harm. The goal isn't to become hollow, it's to become sovereign. Number 8, become untouchable. This is where no insult can pierce your armor. No betrayal can shake your foundation. No manipulation can find a lever to pull. This isn't cruelty, it's sovereignty. The world will always throw chaos at you.
People will test your boundaries. Circumstances will never bend to your desires. The weak break. The fearful react. The unprepared crumble. But the untouchable? They move like shadows across the battlefield. Unaffected, unshaken, unowned. In 1513, Niccolò Machiavelli wrote The Prince while exiled from Florence. He understood one truth that still cuts today. He who is wise will be master of himself. Because freedom doesn't come from others respecting you, it comes from inner mastery. To become untouchable, you must stop chasing love, stop begging for approval, stop waiting for validation. These are traps that keep you tethered to other people's whims. The world doesn't reward kindness. It respects power, self-possession, relentless clarity. When you stop feeding your ego through others, you reclaim your energy. That energy becomes a fortress, shielding you from deceit, manipulation, and distraction. The untouchable build themselves deliberately. They invest in skills, not approval. Discipline, not acceptance. Strategy, not sentiment. And here's what psychologists call the control paradox. People fear what they cannot control. Once you detach from expectation, from reaction, from the need to be understood, you become a psychological enigma. No one can predict you. No one can pull your strings. You've removed the levers. But this path requires shedding the last remnants of you must rise above attachment, above resentment, above the need to be seen. The untouchable do not flinch because they understand something most never will. External validation is smoke. You are anchored to yourself, and that anchor cannot be moved by anyone. When you reach this level, power stops being effort. It becomes presence. People sense it without you saying a word. They respect it or fear it, but they cannot ignore it. You are no longer a participant in their games.
You are the standard by which control is measured.
Drop this in the comments. Nothing